Hi, I'm Nate Flax.
I'm Noah Longworth-McGuire.
And this is Talking Lion.
Talking Lion is a podcast focused on artist-to-artist conversations.
We're primarily artists, a duo called Sleeping Lion. And throughout our career as songwriters and producers, we've had the opportunity to work with so many incredible rising artists.
Talking Lion is about hitting record on the conversations we've had with our musical friends and collaborators to get a glimpse into what their life's been like and where it's going.
A few reminders before we start.
Firstly, we now have a Patreon for fans of the show to show their support and help keep the show going.
As a Patreon subscriber, not only will you earn rewards, but you'll also gain exclusive access to a chat room in our Discord server.
Here you can talk with us and even suggest questions for our guests.
Go to patreon.com/talkinglion to subscribe.
We appreciate your support.
As we mentioned, we also have a Discord server that's become a sort of community hub for Sleeping Lion and Talking Lion. We're very active on there and very eager to talk to you about who you are on the show and how you feel about the new episodes, as well as just talking about life.
So yeah, come through and you can talk with us. You can make some new friends, share your art, and share your memes.
Go to sleepinglionmusic.com/discord to join our server.
We hope to see you there.
Lastly, our face is on a shirt. We have shirts now for Talking Lion with our faces on them. If you want to wear us on your shirt, buy a shirt. It helps support the show and it shows your friends that you like Sleeping Lion and Talking Lion.
You can find these shirts on our website, sleepinglionmusic.com/store. Pro tip, Patreon supporters of the honorary Lion tier or higher will get a free shirt.
Now back to the show.
We recorded this episode with our new friend, Charlotte Sands.
We met Charlotte through a mutual friend and we actually did record a podcast episode, but then the files got lost. So we just decided we had a fun time the first time. Let's just do it again. So you're about to hear take 2.
Charlotte had just released her EP Special, which included the viral single Dress.
Especially in honor of Pride Month, we love a song like Dress and how well it promotes a culture of acceptance, expression, and inclusivity. We're grateful to Charlotte for her kindness, her openness, and her willingness to do this a second time. So,
without further ado,
I'm Charlotte Sands, and this is Talking Lion.
well, hey.
hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going so well.
You know, second time's the charm.
Yeah, here we are. Good to be back.
You know, it's nice because on the one hand, like, we have done this already. On the other hand, I have the memory of a goldfish.
Yeah.
So I don't remember anything that happened the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Guys. Honestly, a pleasure. A privilege to be here.
I mean, likewise for us. You know, we got 2 interviews for the price of
For the
one.
price of
Really?
one. It's a deal.
Yeah, and now we get to do it in 5 minutes. Like, where are you from? Where you live?
Yeah.
Done. We're finished. We got it.
Bucket points. I love it.
Just how's your week been though? You said there was a flood in Nashville.
Yeah, so wild. We got about like 6 inches of rain just yesterday. It's been like tornado warnings for like the last 4 days, which has been super weird and sketchy, especially because it's almost like exactly 1 year since the last tornado hit here.
Right.
So it's always crazy because I feel like whenever that kind of weather stuff comes through, you're always kind of like, it's fine. You know, it's just, it's whatever. It's going to roll through. And then there's like always this moment here in Nashville where you're just like, oh no, like, is this actually like a tornado, or is this just like a light rain and like they're freaking out about it? But yeah, yesterday was pretty crazy. A lot of places are flooded. I have friends with apartment complexes who all of their cars are officially like totaled because
Wow.
because
Damn.
their parking lots were down and I guess like ruined their engines and stuff like that.
Whoa.
So it's been crazy, but I mean, I think I'm grateful that it wasn't like an actual tornado like last time because that was so much worse. But other than that, we're great.
You said last time we chatted that you like very narrowly avoided the tornado that happened last year.
Yeah, I live like pretty close to where it all happened and it was wild. Because I live by myself and it was one of those things where you just think that it's kind of like a random notification on your phone and you're like, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is like not normal. And I have no idea what to do in this situation. So you kind of just like cross your fingers and are like, all right, well, this is it. It's been a good run.
If you wouldn't mind, like, just telling that story again.
Yeah.
Like, you were at a party, right?
Oh, yeah. I forgot I told you guys about this. So basically, Super weird. It was my photographer, Jacqueline Day. It was her birthday that night. And I went to this bar right next to the Basement East in Nashville and for her birthday. And we were all hanging out and it was like 9 or 10. And but usually I'm like the kind of, like I'll stick around and I'll hang. And for some reason, I was just like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't know what it is. I was like, there's something about like it was like an energy thing that I was like, I was with the people I loved. I was with all my friends. And for some reason I was still like, I just want to go home. I just need to go home. And I went home and then not even 2 hours later, the tornado actually went exactly on that street to the point where everyone who was there that I left had to like basically go into the basement and get cover. And the Basement East, which is right next to that bar, was almost completely taken out by it. So thankfully, none of them were hurt. But that bar that I was at like 2 hours before that got hit like really hard. And it was just wild. It's just like one of those moments where you're like, okay, what is?
No, you got the intuition for it. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't park your car in an underground parking
Right.
lot
Yeah,
either.
exactly. I'm like, thank you, universe. Thank you, Mother Nature, for your
Yeah.
signal. I felt like a dog, like dogs like sensing weather and weather or something. I was like, I feel like an animal.
Well, other than the incredible weather, what drew you to Nashville in the first place? Like, well, where are you from, like originally,
Yeah.
and how did you wind up in Nashville?
So I'm from a town outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I've been in Massachusetts basically like my whole life. And I went to high school. It's called Hopkinton. And I went to high school there. And about a week or two after I graduated high school there, I moved to Nashville. I was planning on taking a gap year and I was supposed to be going to college and just decided to move there and take 1 year and see how it went. And I've been here since. My parents are thrilled. But no, I was drawn to Nashville because I grew up on like a lot of like female folky songwriters and like Bonnie Raitt, Sheryl Crow, Faith Hill, Alison Krauss, like all these incredible women who were like these storytellers in my life. And I grew up on their music and all of their albums consistently had to do with Nashville and like where they were created or where they were written or produced, or in some sense they would always say on the back of like the CD player that they were like made in Nashville or recorded in Nashville, which is so random because in my mind I was like, Tennessee, like what? That's so weird. Like I always thought
when I found out that
Tennessee
Nashville was
the
in Tennessee, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like I thought Nashville was like an area of LA or
Right,
or
right.
something.
No, for
The
sure.
only, the only thing I knew for certain that was in Tennessee was Dollywood,
Yeah.
the Dolly Parton theme
100%.
park.
Graceland.
Graceland.
I
Also
still
Graceland,
haven't
guess.
been there, which is so crazy because I've driven by so many times. I need to just like do it at some
It's
point.
fun.
Maybe when this is over.
That's one of the like because I was never really like a Disney kid.
Yeah.
And I've never been to Disneyland.
Same.
I never really did. I was never super duper into roller coasters, so I never really went to like Six Flags. But I did go to Dollywood a couple times
Really?
with the friends, and those are like the biggest and most intense roller coasters I've ever been on.
No
or
way.
at
Yeah,
Dollywood.
I've never
of all
been on a
places.
roller coaster, which is so weird, I think.
I went as a kid once and then I was like never again. But I think
Yeah.
the peak of culture will be when they start giving vaccines at Dollywood.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah, like that.
Absolutely.
Also, I feel like we just need to take a moment to appreciate that Dolly Parton is like the only musician who has managed to make a theme park out of her brand.
Oh
Like
my
that's
God.
actually insane if you think about it.
And there's like really crazy stories about it. I'm probably going to mess this up, but there was like, I remember hearing stories about how she basically went to her team and like she brought this idea to like that idea to so many people and they all were like, this is going to ruin your career and this is not
Right.
going to make you any money. And she was like literally the only person who was like, trust me on this. Like this. And I'm pretty
If you
sure
build
like
it, they
7
will come.
people like backed out of like 10 or something insane. And now it like is huge and massive and makes so much money. And she's just such a badass. Like she's so cool.
True.
She's
Really.
so cool.
I wish that they really brush over it in the last Dolly Parton documentary on Netflix. They're just like, yeah, and then she built Dollywood. And I was like, wait, I want a
Wait,
whole
yeah,
hour
yeah.
special
I want the
on that. I
Imagineering
want the
documentary.
exactly. I want the
Absolutely.
Imagineering documentary
Yeah,
on
she's so
on
cool.
Dollywood.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Contextually, like you first sort of popped up on my radar because we were both on Fresh Finds at the same time,
Amazing.
and you were the cover of it. Like
Hell
you
yeah.
were like sitting in the kitchen with like
Yeah.
yeah
Eating
like
cereal.
eating cereal.
Right.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if I remembered the cereal correctly or if I just really wanted cereal.
Yeah.
So I wasn't about to be like, yeah, there was like, it was messy. I think it was cereal.
Yeah, I went to like the dollar store and got like a massive bag. It was like an actual bag of like fruity pebbles or whatever they're called. And I basically ended up pouring them all over my kitchen and making an entire mess for that photo shoot. But
I think that's
fun.
awesome though.
Thanks.
You really gotta like, if you're not messing up your kitchen for art, what are you doing?
Absolutely. And I drank so much milk because I was like just chugging milk for the cover art. I drank so much milk that I didn't eat for like actually 2 days after that shoot because I was so full and everything just kind of sounded gross to me because I was like, I basically drank a gallon of milk that day.
You could have gotten sponsored by Got Milk.
I know. I missed an opportunity. I really, if I could go back.
Or you could have just done like oat milk and done like Oatly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could have gotten that Oatly bag.
100%.
Yeah.
Dropping a oat milk brand right now.
I'm working on a film right now. I'm doing like sound for it, and I had to record like the Foley of chewing. So I wound up just like scarfing down about a dozen wontons
Oh my God.
over the course of 5 minutes.
Right.
And I felt so sick for the rest
Yeah.
of the day.
The sacrifices we make for art.
sacrifices we make for art, yeah.
That's
Oh my
amazing though.
God.
You know, it's only semi-related, but like I still feel like I love the Trader Joe's
No, exactly.
wontons,
They're great.
and I just don't want to look at them for like
Yeah.
at least
Right.
another week.
You're on a break.
I'm on a break.
Yeah,
But
I
now,
get it.
now if you're ever working on another movie with wontons in it,
Yeah.
you've got it on lock.
Yeah, I got
You
it.
have that in perpetuity.
I got
You're
those
like,
sounds.
thank God.
That implies that I organize my own personal sounds well, which I don't.
I don't do that either.
That's incredible.
But that's how I found you. But you knew Charlotte because of Amelia?
Yeah, I forget why, but
Was it high school?
Well, yeah. So our friend Emilia Ali is also from Hopkinton, and I
wild.
forget. I think when we were on the Fresh Finds playlist, I think Amelia messaged me and said, "Oh, I actually went to school with Charlotte Sands."
Yeah, Amelia is incredible, and her family is incredible. Yeah, and her dad was actually like my first drummer I've ever had.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
and so my first release show ever for my album when I was 16 years old and releasing like crazy music. Her dad, was my drummer and basically like organized everything. And her mom was like, gave me guitar lessons. Like their whole family.
Wasn't
is,
she like a
so-
local folk hero?
Yeah, she's like a singer-songwriter. She's Barbara Kessler. She's incredible.
Barb is the best.
And she's like, oh my God, I could just go on for so long. She's like the coolest person ever. Like you meet her and you're just like, take me under your wing. Like, let me hang out with you
Right.
and be your friend. She just ran so much like art stuff in Hopkinton and was just ran the first open mic nights I ever played in my life. She was like the host of, and just one of those people that I'm like genuinely don't know where I would be if they weren't like in my life. But yeah, no, they're so cool. And Amelia is just incredible and so talented and I love her.
No, you
Yeah.
technically have a Barbara Kessler co
I do. I have a song with Barbara Kessler as a co-writer because
Wow.
when we were working on the song "Loved the Ocean," Emilia really wanted to, because it's this folky singer-songwriter
Yeah.
song. She really wanted to pay homage to her mother, and
Aw.
her mother has a song called "Notion," which rhymes with ocean for those at home.
in Rhymeland.
For those in Rhymeland.
Those running to Rhyme Zone, we'll save you the
We'll save you the
trouble.
trip. Ocean and
Dang.
ocean do somewhat rhyme. So she interpolated the song of her mother's as the bridge of our song "Love the Ocean."
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And Barb also played like so many guitar takes. Like she played like so many different like styles of guitar, like with different mics. Like she gave us so much beautiful stuff to work with in production. And it
Wait,
was
that's her mom on the guitar?
no, ultimately it's me and it's the Martin, because at the end of the day we loved the demo so much, as you tend to with
Yeah,
songs like that are
yeah,
so raw.
absolutely.
But there's tiny little moments where I fade in her guitar just
Oh,
for a
that's
second, just to
amazing.
kind of like give it a bit of extra
I'm
space.
jealous. I want a Barbara Kessler cut. Damn, I want her on my song.
It's honestly my proudest songwriting accomplishment up
Dude.
to
I
this
feel,
point.
I feel like if you were to
Super
just give
cool.
a call, it would be done. I feel like you'd just be like,
Yeah,
hey,
now I'm
let's
like,
do
that might
this.
be my
This
next
should be
goal
down.
is to get Barb on one of my songs.
I'll have
Honestly,
your
it'd be
people
great.
call my people.
Yeah.
You know, just
Exactly. We'll set it up.
Absolutely.
I love that.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of songs, you recently put out the special EP, and it's fucking awesome. Like, it's
Thank you.
so good and so cool. Like,
Thanks so
I think one of the things that immediately grabbed me was just like, I miss drums like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I miss drums like that. I miss vocals with like that energy. Like I grew up listening to like pop punk and like specifically
hell yeah.
Paramore, and I
Oh,
feel like there's so much of
good.
that energy in that.
I listened to all of Riot yesterday on my drive
Oh,
to
man.
the music store, and that was just like, I would recommend anyone who
Yeah.
was into Paramore as a teenager and hasn't listened to all of Riot recently. I would
I say
highly recommend
a
it.
Riot special double feature.
A Riot, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm working my way through Paramore's entire discography, but I started with
Incredible.
Riot.
Oh my
and
God,
it is
they're so good.
Such
Emilia
a
Williams
good
is just like
record.
iconic. But yeah, no, I feel the same way. It's actually really, it's funny because the reason that I actually started making, I mean, I grew up on that kind of music as well. I grew up on like All Time Low and like Mayday Parade and all that kind of stuff, and like Boys Like Girls, 2000s like pop punk stuff. Like
Right.
which is
away.
dude, don't even get me. Yeah, I grew up and I always like loved the singer-songwriter folky stuff, but I also like loved that kind of music so much, and I was like trying to figure out a way to like mix those two things together. And the thing that always was that connector was drums for me. Like it was always the energy of like percussion that changed a song from being like this slow folky like country something to like a big energy live production kind of like show. And so that was like the one thing, and that's why I only play with a drummer, and Dana and Reed, and he's the writer on basically every song I've released, the producer on basically every song I've released, my best friend. And yeah, and it's just because that's genuinely like I feel like the heartbeat of any band and any song, and like that is like the coolest part to me. So percussion and like drums are so important. So I'm glad that you feel that way, because that's like honestly my priority every time we write is like making sure that the energy in that part is locked in and then adding all the other stuff. But yeah, it's really fun. I'm just having a good time.
I think it totally sets it in that world. And I think especially with this sort of like pop punk reemergence, it's not surprising to me that some of the best records in the 2021 version of the genre are being produced or worked on by like Travis Barker
Right.
and John Feldman and stuff.
Yeah.
Like people who come from that background,
For sure.
who know exactly how to dial in, specifically the drums, to fit in that style. So you
Yeah.
have like, Machine Gun Kelly
Or Youngblood
or
any
somebody
of
like
these people.
or Mod Sun, whatever,
Yeah.
who like are fitting in that genre because they're pulling from actual legends in that genre.
They literally have Travis Barker. When you literally have Travis Barker on your record, like it's gonna sound as pop punk as it ever possibly
For
could.
sure.
But I don't think.
100%.
But I what I'm sort of playing at is that it's not necessarily exclusive to obviously like John Feldman and
Right.
and Travis Barker. The sort of broader strokes is that like you're working with somebody who knows specifically where to put that drum fill to make it sound like
Yeah.
a pop punk record.
Right.
And I think the other thing is the reason I work so much with Danon is because he grew up playing in those kind of bands like his whole life. Since he was like 14 years old, he was drumming in those bands. So he was like actually in it. And I think that's the one distinction between a lot of the music that's coming out now and a lot of the ones that like we grew up on is not that it's better or worse, but I just think that there's like this different understanding of like the actual like punkiness of it that's like
Right.
gritty and like dirty and like it's like grunge, and it's not perfect. Like I feel like people going into this like music right now, people are really used to super like slick tropical kind of like really edited sounds and making it sound super radio ready, and like you want it to sound really good. And I think that Dana and I work so well together because both of us like it better when it's kind of doesn't, and there's like this perfect mix that he finds so well that's like this grittiness of it, but the quality is still good. But it's kind of like, is this a demo? But like you could also maybe put it on the radio. It's like finding
Right.
that
No,
in
exactly.
between.
Well, and that's what I think is so interesting about like bands like Paramore, and even like I loved Say Anything growing up.
Yeah.
Like say anything, even like Coheed and Cambria, all that stuff, Linkin Park, all that stuff. What people don't realize is that like it's gritty. There is like elements of like improv and a sort of like sloppiness in the approach,
Right.
but every element is so clean.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
they,
yeah.
like I think that a lot of pop production approaches things with a level of polish, and it's just like,
Yeah.
well, okay, here's the idea, how do we polish it? But I think the idea that's more interesting is like, well, here's the version, how do we fuck it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we make it like a little bit more gritty?
Absolutely.
I think that's what made those bands at the time so great, was that like you didn't have a hair out of place in a Paramore record, but it
Yeah.
still sounded like it was made in a garage.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you love it
is
so
the
much.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's even like lyrically, it's so funny because like so many of those songs, like you listen to them lyrically and it's like it doesn't sound like they're trying hard. They're not like going
Yeah.
out of their way to be like, I'm emo and I'm like doing this and I'm doing this and I'm like cool. So many of them are just like, I don't know, it just sounds super natural and it's not like a try hard, like trying to be this thing. They're just like doing it. And there's every single song ends with tonight. You know what I mean? And
Right.
like,
Oh my God. I love
and like it's like literally just like the same thing, but it's so cool and it's just like the energy and it's just like you can tell that it's just like fun and you can feel it and that's like the most important thing to me is that like it just translates and yeah, I don't know, it's been really fun. That's like the thing that we've been working on the most is just trying to figure out that perfect mix of like quality but also just like making sure it sounds I want it to sound like I made it in a garage, you know? We made it in a room. We made like basically every one of those songs in a bedroom, like fucking around on like guitars and like him playing live drums for most of them. So we like want it to sound like we're just like making it at home and it's not like this $50,000 thing because it's not, you know?
Well, I think what's really exciting is as I was kind of presencing, like listening to a record like Riot, is that when a lot of that music was being made, like it was still in the era of music production and music technology where you kind of needed the big studio and the fancy mics and the major label producer to kind of rein in those sounds and dial in the record so it sounds super pop and polished. And that barrier for entry just doesn't exist anymore. Like we can make records that sound about as good as major label pop punk releases from 10, 15 years ago, completely in the box now. It's just like
hell, even MIDI drums sound better than they did.
Yeah,
like,
even MIDI drums are at a point where like if you program them well and you dial in the sonics well, that like it gets you 90% of the way there.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I feel like we're almost at a place where you can spend $100 and make something sound like a song on the radio. So like I feel like a lot of people can do that. And not saying that it's easy, but you're able to. You know what I mean? Like it's out there. And so I feel like now it's almost harder to like make things sound good but have that kind of edge to them. It's almost harder to like find that medium. So it's like people almost
when everyone can sound polished and
right.
then it puts the onus on originality and on imperfection
and on how well you can balance like the decisions you make.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like if you are going gritty, making sure that it's for a reason. I was talking to a friend who's just like starting his journey on like making his first record, and he said something along the lines of, you know, like, I'm really making this like in my home studio, so I can't do this to that and the other thing. Right. I was like, no. Like, where do you think these records are being made? Like, they are either being made in home studios or they're going to a studio for like an Instagram look and putting their laptop on the console
and recording into the SM7B anyway.
Yeah, and recording into the SM7B anyway. Like that's the long and short of it. So I was like, yeah, I feel like if we just can tell people that the barrier for entry is not there.
Well, it's not financial. It's philosophical.
It's philosophical, and it's skill based.
Yeah. Well, it's
and
funny
then it comes down to originality.
Yeah, and also like Danon always makes jokes because he's spent like so much money on like all this stuff and all these effects for me to record vocals and all these plugins and all this stuff, and he spends this money to like make stuff sound good for everyone who records there, and it always just cracks me up because he's always like, I do all of that stuff to make it sound really cool, but then we always end up you recording vocals into an SM7 sitting on the couch. You know what I mean? And he's always like, why did I do this? Like, so it is super funny because I'm like, if it sounds too clean, I'm like, this microphone sounds too good. I don't want it to.
And even what's funny for some songs, like the studio recording from a performance standpoint doesn't sound great because, especially for newer artists, it's intimidating to be in the studio for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like when you're recording, when you're recording like at home, you're like relaxed and you can, think about whatever, and you can try like a bunch of takes and stuff. But I remember, the first time we recorded our record and we went to the studio, I couldn't stop thinking about how, if I fuck up that take,
we're getting
that took 5 minutes, and 5 minutes, and we're paying $100 an hour or whatever. Like that means that's You
Oh
know,
my God, it's so
that messed
stressful.
up take was $10. You know, like
Yeah, miss me with that.
And even just especially like I'm thinking back to that moment when we were recording Patient Creature, and like even just being a vocalist in a booth, I've had to do it a couple times, and
it's the worst.
And it's the worst. I literally get so in my head. There's just something about being on the other side of the glass and having someone talk through
Oh
the
my
talk back.
God,
And like
yeah.
I have a degree in engineering. Like I know what it's like to be on the other side of the glass, and even having that ability to have that empathetic perspective, it's still really alienating. It's still really difficult.
Absolutely.
And it's hard not to get in your head and feel like you're isolated. The only way I like to record vocals is at my desk, just like sitting there with the SM7 and just like, trying a bunch of takes, and if, and I can get up and get a glass of water and no one's like
Well,
bothering
that's what's
me.
so funny
Like
is I think for the like 4 of the songs that are on that EP, I think those are demo vocals because I would re-record them and we would be like, I don't know, the first one just sounds like we just wrote the song and we were still trying to figure it out and it was like still emotional. And then when I try to record actual vocals, I'm like trying to sing well. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Instead of just being like, we're going to redo it, it doesn't matter. So like even like Special and stuff, like most of those songs were the first day when we wrote the song. Because
that's
we were
what's
going
the
to
rawest too.
Yeah.
That's when like you're the most in touch with like the emotion of the song. Like when the song has just like, brutally poured out of you and you're recording it with that like that heart and that sentiment, like I'd rather punch in like 1 or 2, words or,
Right.
1 or 2 lines than completely retrack.
Yeah.
Not to mention that you feel more comfortable when you're like, this is a scratch vocal.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
whenever somebody goes to record a demo with us, they're like, this is the scratch vocal, right? And we're like, yeah.
Exactly.
Like, with a wink.
With a wink. No, yeah.
Because we know that if they come at it with like, no pressure, that could be the final version.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all just a mental game.
I think one of the things I learned when we interviewed Lido, being a producer isn't about making the song. Being a producer is about getting the artist to be comfortable with the song.
Yeah.
And so like it's, our job is to get the person to be in the headspace to get the best performance.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's taking a walk, and sometimes that's just not telling them everything.
Yeah.
Right.
To get a low pressure performance.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. It's like it's knowing like almost what you want it to sound like and not because like even when I'm working with people and they're just like, hey, I know this sounds really weird, but like say it in a British accent so we can put it in the back. And I'm like, that's stupid. I'm not doing that. And then I do it and I'm like, how can you just like think of that and knowing it's going to get the exact like tone and things that you like know? It's just so crazy. But yeah, it's 100%. It's so cool. I think that stuff is so sick. I like wish I did more of it, but I like can record my own vocals and stuff and I make like shitty tracks. But
I think you're a good producer in the sense that you do know what you want. Like what's interesting about like we both get a production credit, but like Noah sits at the computer.
Right.
And when we first started out, I always considered that Noah was really good at like the modern production of like sound design and putting the track together. And I was really good at like the artist involvement of like trying to get the clear idea out of an artist and trying to sort of see the broad design of the song. And now I'm trying to get better at the DAW. Noah's a lot better at the art, like at the artistic.
But I think
side.
the reason I've always valued our partnership is that like even if you are the kind of person who can be micro and macro, you can never be both at the same time. So having another person who's like, hey, I'm just going to be the zoomed out perspective on this record while you're the zoomed in perspective just speeds the process up. Like ultimately, like it's a good division of labor to be like, okay, I'm gonna be in the weeds. I'm gonna see the trees so that you can see the forest.
Well, and that's the thing is like there are probably people listening who are like, well, because I'm not good in Logic, I can't be a good producer. And I'm like, yo, Logic didn't exist back when there were great producers.
Right.
You know, like
Absolutely.
George Martin didn't have Logic. You know. Like at the end of the day, like what a producer is somebody who has a clear idea of what they want their songs to be, which I really strongly feel like you do. And like despite not necessarily being at the DAW, like you are a producer.
I think people don't think about even just saying, oh, there needs to be a guitar here instead of a piano. Like that is a production decision.
Right. And I think as the artist, it's like I always see it as I'm like, I mean, I automatically see everything as a live show and as performing the song live. That's like how I write everything. Honestly, I close my eyes and literally imagine myself on stage and I'm like, what would I want to happen next? And what would people respond to if that happened next? And that's like how I like feel like I write everything. And so especially for that reason, it's like no one knows how I want the show to feel more than me, and how I want it to sound. And I'm the only one, since it's literally me and one other person on stage in those moments. I'm like, I want to be excited for everything that happens in the song, and I want people to be excited about it, and nobody, it's my responsibility. You know what I mean? So at a certain point, it's like, feel like I have such a good idea of obviously what I want people to be feeling in those moments and hearing, and all of it as a combination. And that's why I feel like I'm able to kind of give my help and pointers on that. But it's also cool because the only other person on stage is usually Danon, and he's the drummer. And so we both are like, okay, this is the show. This is the thing we're going for. And so we both have like a really clear idea of the whole picture, which is just so helpful, you know, because I think it's like the perfect, like, making a record as a band or whatever. Like, you know how people respond, and you are on stage and you feel it. And it's not just you trying to, like, fingers crossed that, like, it's going to translate well, you know, it's you being like, okay, like, this is the energy that we're trying to create, and this is the space and the night and the show we're trying to make happen. Like, let's create it sonically. And yeah, so it's just been super cool. I'm pumped. Every time I talk about it, I get psyched.
I mean, I think that, like, I'll know that the pandemic's over when we can see a live Charlotte Sounds show.
Oh my
like,
God.
That's really, like, I'm looking forward to that, like, so much. But I was talking to Noah about this morning, that, like, I think that a developed artist learns discernment. Like, I think a developed artist learns a taste for their project in every aspect. Like, if you're an artist, it's not just that you know what your voice sounds like. It's like, you know what your songs sound like.
Yeah.
You know what your visuals look like. You know what your social media is like. You know all of that stuff. So, like, even if you have a publicist, even if you have a social media manager, even if you have a photographer or a songwriter or a producer, if you are involved in those processes, you are those things as well. So, I think just like a director, like, obviously a director of a film is the director of the film, but, like, what auteur theory was that, but the director is also working alongside their cinematographer. The director is also working alongside their audio post-production person.
Yep.
So the director, even if they have never touched in audio post processing software before in their life, they are as legitimate of a sound designer as I am in that moment.
Right.
Because it's their project.
Right.
And I think that, I think a lot of producers I know will, and I think they're not great producers, will fight with artists. And I'm like, what are you fucking doing? You're fighting with your co-producer.
Yeah.
You're fighting with the person who's getting the song cut.
And you're positing that you're right simply by virtue of the fact that you're in the chair. Which is like, I think
honestly, all my love to him, to Busby, who is obviously just like so incredible and just such a legend. But I did like a pitch meeting, like pop pitch meeting in Nashville once, and he was there and he was talking and is just so wise and like was sharing just some like wisdom with all of us. And one of the things he said was, he was like, I remember being in the room and writing with Florida Georgia Line, and they came in with the idea Holy, and I was like, and he was like, no, we're not doing that. And then almost shot the song down and was like, I'm not interested. And then either Tyler or whoever was like, well, it stands for like High on Loving You. And he was like, oh shit, that's incredible. And they wrote the song, and it was like the biggest song. Like it was like number one for so long. And he was like, never ever assume that you're the smartest person in the room or that you're right. He's like, you're never like, it's like the worst thing you could possibly do to halt like a song or anyone's creativity is to just assume that you know better than somebody else in the room, no matter who you are, no matter what awards you have or streams or anything. He's like, just never assume that you are right. Like, and you're better than anyone else in the room. And I think that's so important because it's like, yeah, I think the second you do that, you like literally are shutting off collaboration and like halting any chance of having like a collaborative energy and like space. So yeah, I always try and think about, even when I'm like, no, even as an artist, I mean, like I definitely feel like I'm pushy and I like know what I want to do.
Which you've earned by being an artist.
Yeah. And I feel like I can be pushy and be like, I wouldn't say that, or that's not something I would say, or that's not how I feel. And that doesn't feel authentic to me. But I always, there's been so many times where I've like fought somebody on something, and then like a week later I've listened to the song and I've been like, shit, I was wrong.
Well,
And
yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
I'm a hot-headed New Yorker. Like
Yeah.
I more often than not have been right instead of happy.
Mhm.
And I think what's interesting is that because we started as artists, I developed I know what's right in a song. Like I know what's unique. I know what's special.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I really got like handed humble pie
Right.
when we first started diving into the songwriting stuff, because my second session was when we got to LA and Emilia actually visited us, and we spent the day. I kept just trying to write this song for Emilia as opposed to writing a song with Emilia.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm writing for somebody who knows her sound and knows herself so without a shadow of a doubt that the fact that I tried to impose a song on her. I mean, I didn't know. I had just gotten into songwriting.
Right. Absolutely.
But she like and she was like so gracious, and at no point actually like called me on it. But in reflecting on the session, I'm like, she had great ideas, and I just wasn't listening.
Right. And well, that happens, I feel like, so often with me as an artist, and people like going into sessions with me. And like you obviously go into sessions with so many strangers and people you've never worked with before, especially because of quarantine and like all this. I've been being able to be on Zoom so much with people from all over the world. And that's so wonderful and like such a silver lining. But it is so funny that people even will listen to my music and listen to like 4 songs of mine and then come into the session and so often think that they like have such a clear idea of either what I want to do or like what I'm trying to say in any sense. And obviously I'm grateful for anybody who wants to work with me. That's just a compliment in itself. And it's a privilege. But yeah, it's always so funny because I think we change every day, and I think all of us do. And it's so easy for people to like put you in like this one category. And I'm like, if I put out 4 songs that are high energy and like I hate people or I'm mad at my ex-boyfriend or whatever, people automatically obviously will come into the room being like, this is your thing. But out that day, most of the time, I'm in a mood where I'm like, I think I'm in love. You know what I mean? Like, so we're all just so changing constantly. And it's like, it's honestly one of the biggest skills of like a good writer is being able to just like find things that people are saying throughout like their honest conversations instead of trying to like actually force ideas or like try and make things cool. It's like the coolest things are the things that originally don't seem that cool, honestly. Like,
right.
And they seem like casual, but always end up being like my favorite songs because they're the most honest, you know?
I have a funny story that I don't even think I've told you, Noah.
Oh yeah.
Because you were out by this point, but like in that vein, a couple months into being in LA, I met Transviolet and booked a session with Sarah to write a song for Transviolet. And I was a big fan of Transviolet's, but a lot of the songs that I heard were very kind of like sexy or like talked about like sex pretty candidly and whatnot. Yeah. So I didn't want to be like unprepared for the session. So before she came, I actually wrote a song about like, I think it was about like having sex on the couch or something like that. Like I wrote, I'm like, oh yeah, like I know their palette. Like I'm gonna write like a sexy song. So she's like, so if she at any point is like, oh, do you have anything? I'm like, oh, I actually have this song about having sex on the couch. And she comes in and like the first thing that she said is she's like, I'm like, how's it been? She's like, it's been so tough. Like, I'll go into these like sessions and these guys have like these songs about like sex prepared. I'm just like quietly ripping the page. I'm like very quietly ripping the page out of my journal and just like crumpling it up and throwing it in the trash.
Those guys suck.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not how songwriters are supposed to songwrite. That's so fucked up. I can't believe they would do that.
Oh my God.
So
yeah,
rude.
I've been there so many times.
I don't even think I told Sarah this. Like, I hope she's listening.
Yeah,
that's like,
was that the long shot?
That was
session?
the long shot session.
That's okay. Yeah. So Charlotte, for context, the song they ended up writing is the most beautiful ballad.
Oh
like, it's the most beautiful, heartfelt, like just like down to earth, like just like simple, like elegant song about choosing music over like, love in a way, and struggling with that decision. And it's one of my favorite songs that I've ever even tangentially been a part of.
Like, I mean, mine too. But yeah, it could have very easily have been like, oh, so what do you want to write about? Well, I have a song about couch sex.
Couch sex.
I was so happy that she came in and she was just
thankfully.
That's amazing. I love that.
The thing is, I think I just like blocked it from my memory because of how on the nose it was.
Right.
She's like, yeah, like. They hear our songs and they just think that like we want to write about sex. I'm just like, no, they don't.
You're like, that's crazy. I would never get that idea.
She's like, well, what did you just rip out of your journal? Oh, nothing. I
Nothing.
didn't rip out anything out of my
I'm
journal.
Just my
Yeah.
grocery list.
It's a grocery list. Yeah, Do you have a favorite song on the special EP? And if so, do you have a favorite lyric other than dress? Because I wanna actually address
Yeah.
dress.
I want to
separately.
address dress. I love it.
Mhm.
That's so hard. So one of my favorite songs I think ever is "Dream About You." I feel like that song, it's fell out of like me as a person, and it was just like it feels like a journal entry, and every single like word and lyric in that song is true and like happened basically that day. And it's basically about like the day I woke up next to somebody who wasn't my ex-boyfriend and realized that I was like finally kind of like over him. And even though I broke up with him but it's still like that feeling of being like, wait, I'm like next to somebody and actually like being here. That's weird. I feel guilty, but also you're like relieved. It's like that whole mixed emotion kind of thing. And so I'm a psychopath. I was in that bed and I remember leaving and walking out of the room into his apartment, and I recorded laying in a bed with somebody else, hoping if my head's on his chest, it'll keep my mind off you. And I literally recorded that. And then
That's so good.
I like recorded like random stuff, and I was like, I didn't know you'd still be a mess while my dress is on the floor of his bedroom.
Laying in a bed with somebody else, hoping if my head's on his chest, it'll keep my mind off you. I feel like a creep watching when he sleeps, holding on to me. Should I leave? I just pray he won't come to. Scared that he'll fall, I don't want him to. Scared that I'll do what I did to you. Damn, I never guessed you'd be such a mess while I'm getting rest with my dress on the floor of his bedroom.
It was like all just like details of like me literally like waking up and then basically going to the session with Danon and Megan Redmond, who's incredible. And it fell out. It felt like I was just like reading stuff that was like in my diary. And it was like one of those songs that the first time I did it live, I was like, this feels so good. And I was just so happy about it. So that is like probably one of my favorites. And it's just such like an actual mark in like my life of like how I was at that time. And those always feel special. But yeah, I think
like
another,
DP.
yeah. I think another lyric that I love would be the song Special I wrote about a guy, and it's about a few different guys that I kind of dated a few different people who would like love to hang out with me and be like, not to them, like they love to hang out with me, I'm awesome. They would like want to hang out with me and like hook up with me, but then the second they would be like, we're perfect together, all this stuff. But then I'd be like, are we boyfriend and girlfriend? And they'd be like, no.
Don't be silly now. Don't be
Yeah,
silly.
and they're
now.
like, where'd you get that idea? And I'm like, what? Like, I literally just went to Thanksgiving with your family. What are you talking about? But then they're like, you're
Damn.
crazy. And like, stop letting your like mind run wild.
Wow.
But it was always funny because the third time, I didn't even realize this was a trend until it happened to me one time. This was a year ago or whatever. And I remember it was after a conversation of him saying that he didn't want to date me. Sick. It was after that conversation, and he was like, you're so special. And he said that to me, and he was like, but you're so special. And I remember literally for some reason remembering, I was like, I think every single one of the guys has said that. Like that word has been like, no, I don't want to date you, but you're so special. And I got in my car, cried, and then recorded a voice memo that was like, if I'm so special, how is it so easy for you to let go? And basically it was just like the concept of calling something special, but then not wanting it is like so interesting to me. But my favorite lyric from that specifically, not trying to offend anybody, is I bet I'd be your girlfriend if I went to church.
Acting like you're holy shit, you're the worst. Bet I'd be your girlfriend if I went to church.
Only because living in Nashville, Tennessee, I've dated so many guys who I feel like I'm a spiritual person, and I feel like I have like a lot of different relationships with different religions, but it was always this huge thing that would happen in every single relationship that would like get to this turning point where they would all be like, I can't wait until you like start coming to church with me, and like all pushing like religion and stuff on me. And so I always made this joke that I was like, I think I would be dating all those guys if I like did that. And or like they would like actually want to like hang out with me and whatever. So it was just hilarious. And I feel like that was the lyric that kind of just like was supposed to be a joke at first. And I was like, actually, that's like super honest. And I genuinely feel that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
why not
yeah.
keep it in there? And it
I
just
love
like
that.
cracks me up because it's like such a dig at like such specific people. And so I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want them to know it's about them, you know?
Yeah.
For some reason, I think being here, even for like the last 4 years, it's obviously it's changed. Nashville has changed so much. But when I was here, it was definitely more just like very country and very mostly country music and country like I was in country sessions and I still do them sometimes. And I love country music, but it was so fun. I was so weird, you know, when I was here, like, I don't know, like have blue hair and just like, I just like kind of stuck out, which is like, obviously I don't hate attention because look at me, but it was just always so funny to me because I feel like people would date me and then be like, they would think that they'd be like, you're artsy or you're cool or whatever. And then like one weekend be like, I can't wait for you to like change into like this person or like this idea of like this concept for you. And I'm like, wait, I don't understand. Like, this is so confusing. But it was always this like battle between in those relationships of me being like, hey, I respect whatever you want to do and believe in and it's like cool. But then they would always be like, me too. But one day you will believe this way. And I was like, wait, what? So it was, a constant struggle. But, you know, it's just a different form of transportation. We're all getting to the same place. You know, that's my mindset.
Speaking of toxic cultural values and breaking conformity, we both love your song Dress. Like,
thank you.
Oh yeah, that segue.
That was a great segue. That was
a
incredible.
phenomenal segue.
I mean,
You should
we've
be
been
proud of
doing.
that
We're 60 episodes
This is
strong.
season 3, baby.
Yeah, this
You're
is season
professional
3.
now.
We don't fuck around with our segues.
Not no more.
Which incidentally is actually also the motto and slogan for Segway. We don't fuck around with our segues.
We don't fuck around with our segues.
I would
Our
own a
segues
Segway
will
if that
not
was
send
the
you off a
slogan.
cliff.
I would already buy one if that was it. No, thank you so much. That's so nice.
Well, I think the reason it really resonates with us, other than the fact that we just absolutely adore Harry Styles and his Vogue cover, is because like I think that Noah and I both grew up, you know, I mean, because high school is fucking brutal, like in cultures where being a somewhat effeminate or not just like hyper masculine guy led to us being called very mean names and like,
absolutely.
you know, or bullied or, you know, just not having us feel comfortable with the things that we liked, you know, that level of like toxic hyper masculinity. Like, I don't know who I would be or what I would look like or dress like if I knew when I was younger that I could dress however
and if those like
I wanted
expectations
to.
weren't forced on you.
Yeah, like I feel like dresses are awesome, and you know, and I honestly genuinely think that I'm not brave enough as a person to have that conversation with myself, let alone with culture or like you know with people. So the fact that you write about like a guy wearing a dress to a party, but writing about him with these very masculine, you know, sexy adjectives is really powerful, and I feel like that's like a message that resonated with us and will resonate with people who are just trying to express themselves and wear whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad because I mean we truly worked really hard on trying to make it seem, and like not that it should be normal, you know what I mean, but try to make the song sound so casual in the sense where like I've had so many people come up to me and say like I didn't really get it until you said the word I love the way you wear that dress, then you said you were talking about a guy, because they thought it was just going to be like a normal, they had no idea what was like coming, you know, but it's like I love the fact that people didn't feel like off the bat it was me being like men in dresses is acceptable in society, you know what I mean, like and it's not like gender norms, it's literally just me like talking about thinking a guy is hot and he happens to be wearing a dress and that makes him more hot because he's confident in himself and he just is like doing whatever the fuck he wants and doesn't care about people judging him in any way. And like, you know,
I didn't know you were talking about a guy until the second chorus. Like I turned to know, I'm like, oh shit, that's about a guy. That's awesome.
See, that's like honestly was like my hope was I almost wanted it to pull people in to a point where they liked the song, no matter who you are, they liked the song before they even felt like I was pushing an idea or an opinion on them. And they like, because that's how people I feel like change their mindsets is they like, it's not you forcing them to like feel a certain way or think this or say that they're bad or wrong for feeling a certain way. It's you being like, this is really casual and normal. And like, you see what I'm doing? You like the song and it's about him just doing what he wants. Like, okay, it's not really a big deal. Let's all calm down, And so I wanted it to feel like I was just like singing about a guy that I had a crush on and it wasn't a big deal. And it's not me trying to like have a political like discussion. It was just me saying I respect the fact that he feels comfortable in whatever he wants to wear. And also, I just wanted it to feel like it was representing people who are so often like not represented in pop songs, and especially pop songs, I feel like by females and like women. I feel like we so often it's like when you describe someone that you're attracted to, it's like ripped jeans, baggy shirt, like, you know what I mean? And like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it just misses a huge group of people when you're talking about that, because you're like, oh, attractiveness is slicked back hair, like leather jacket, this. And you're like, everyone like can love the song and then hear that and be like, I mean, it's not really what I
there aren't a ton of songs about the lanky scruffy string bean boys.
Yeah.
Like I feel
I know.
and I feel like I
I
needed
got
that.
you.
I needed that growing up,
Honestly.
and
Yeah.
like but yeah, I think it's a really special song. Was it Harry Style inspired?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I actually had a conversation with Danon like a few, like maybe a week before that session, because we were cracking up because he was like, your type has changed so much since we've been friends. Like over the last 3 years, I used to date guys who were like super aggressive and were just like, I'm a masculine man. Let me prove it to
Right.
you with like the fact that I want to punch someone in the face because they made eye contact with me. And
I can pick you up.
yeah, literally. And he was like, look at me pick things up and put them down. Like, good for you. But it was like so funny because I would date all these guys who were like, felt like they had to prove their masculinity to me. And then I would be like, wow, that's so hot. He can fight somebody, And I would just like, that was in my head was what I was interested in, which was like, shame on me. And thank God I'm not her anymore. But at the same, it's so funny because like over the last few years, I've been like completely just like the opposite of the fact that my version of confidence changed from of someone who's confident enough to get into a physical altercation with a stranger into someone who's confident enough to like walk away from those situations as well as wear and live their authentic life with or without judgment of like, and not caring about people's opinions like that. I don't think there's anything more attractive to me in the world in like friends and relationships than somebody who is genuinely like, I'm going to do me. And I don't really care how you feel about it. As long as I'm not like disrespecting anybody or hurting anybody, like I'm going to do what I want. And I love that energy. And yeah, so it's just like, it's changed from like guys who I was like, that was the complete opposite. And now I'm like, I don't think I'm going to date a guy unless he paints his nails and wears some dresses, But no, and Danon was just cracking up about it. And he was like, he made a comment about the whole dress thing. And he was like, yeah, you're going from this to dresses. And I was like, I can't help it. But, and then we were talking about how Harry Styles had that cover. And then, which I was like, this is incredible. Like, he looks great. It's so cool. And there's been so many men who have done that in history and kind of like challenged gender norms and like fashion in that sense. And like David Bowie and like Freddie Mercury and all these people who have been doing this for years, but it's still super cool to have somebody who's such a big public figure and whose fan base is like majority like women, and feel like it's super brave for him to do that and feel confident doing that and just like not care. And I remember seeing the whole cover and I was like, this is awesome. Okay, cool. But then I remember seeing the Candace Owens like response to it. And I was like, why do you care? Like, it's just it was just so ridiculous to me.
Why is this the downfall of civilization? Like,
no,
it's just
she literally
a
said
person expressing
civilization
themselves.
would
No, I
fall
mean,
apart.
that is the right wing position. Like, it's indicative of the decay of Western civilization. It's like, calm down.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous.
Jesus Christ, why is there like a fucking moral panic every time anybody tries to just express themselves?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what was so interesting to me about the whole thing. It wasn't even him doing it. I was like, that's amazing, and I support you, and I love him even more. But it was just the fact that people were so bothered by it, and it's like fucking fabric. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when it comes down to it. And it's just it's just crazy because I was like, I can't believe this is actually like a discussion still. And obviously I'm so aware that people still do feel like they can't like wear what they want and all that stuff. And I know it's still an issue and obviously important, and not trying to make it seem like it's not, but it just is so ridiculous that sometimes I have to like remember that's like still just such a, like it's so offensive to some people because they want to wear like a different amount of fabric. And it's just whatever. It's hilarious to me. But I remember reading that, and that's when we kind of wrote or kind of came up with the idea of being like, I love the way you wear that dress, like making everyone upset.
I love the way you wear that dress, making everyone upset.
Yeah, and just like the idea of like everyone being pissed, like this guy being in a bar and him wearing a dress and everyone like rolling their eyes and being like, what a weirdo, and me being like, that's my baby, you know, like that's
I love that.
because like that's truly like the coolest thing, like that energy of like not caring and just like living your truest life is like that's it. That's like that's the most attractive thing and coolest thing for everybody. And like what I want everyone to feel that way. Like I truly, my goal and like even my music is for people to feel like represented and like respected and like celebrated and like and have like, I feel like my favorite bands and favorite artists, even Youngblood and stuff, like I love him so much because he like celebrates people's differences so well in his music, and he like makes a celebration of the things that so often in our society are the things that we are taught to hide. And I just think that's so beautiful, and I'm like, my only goal is to like make people feel the same way that like that stuff does. And I just want, I don't know, I think that I think our society would be so much stronger and more colorful and powerful in every aspect if people just did what they wanted to, in the sense of like living the life that they wanted. Like the fact that she thought that we would have a weaker society if people were more colorful and like more authentic. And I just completely disagree. I think the more people feel confident in who they are and feel proud to show that off, the stronger every single person would be and the stronger our country and our world would be. And I just, yeah, it's so the whole concept of it is crazy to me, but I just, yeah, I could go on forever about it. My thing I've always said my whole life, and like my one belief system is like, I respect your opinion as long as it doesn't disrespect somebody else's existence.
Yeah.
And that is like my standard overall, is because it's like, that does not disrespect anybody. You know what I mean? It's just self-expression. It's just like, like doing something that makes you happy, and like the ability to look in the mirror and be like, I like this. Like I look good. And also there are so many more options in like women's fashion, and there's so much more clothes and so much more you can do with it. So it's like to be a man and to have to only wear like, you have like 2 items of clothing that you're supposed to,
It's
you know what I
pants
mean?
and shirts.
Yeah, it's pants and shirts. And I'm like, no wonder like art, and like I just know other people so often that like talk about how they've always just wanted to just like shop in the women's sections of things because there's just like more options and it's more colorful and there's more styles of things, and they just don't really have that option and they don't feel like they're able to do that. And yes, and it just doesn't affect anybody. And that's what it comes down to, is I'm like, I just feel like everyone should do what they want. If it doesn't affect or disrespect somebody else's existence, then like let people be who they want to be and get over it. Like it does not affect you. And I don't know. Yeah, that's just where I stand on it.
My only moral qualm and quandary is just make sure that the dress is made from sustainable and and fair labor.
Absolutely.
You know? Like I you know,
valid.
my moral qualms with a guy wearing a dress is that fast fashion? Is that hurting the ecosystem?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Make
well,
sure,
hey, the
you know.
dress merch sweatshirts are 100% reusable and recycled fabric. So
Hey,
Very
I
cool.
love that.
Love
I
and
that.
they do
absolutely
say
love that.
dress however the fuck you want on them. So
Oh, that's so
Yes.
good. I love that.
Pausing the podcast to remind you that we have a Patreon that you can subscribe to if you want to support the show.
If you're enjoying this episode, but you're thinking that you've got a burning question for an artist, or you just want to talk with us, or maybe you just want to mug with our faces, our Patreon's the way to go.
So go to patreon.com/talkinglion to subscribe.
Now back to the show. You were saying last time we chatted that there was like a really beautiful TikTok reaction video.
oh my
that
God.
resonated
Yeah.
with you.
I like cry every time I think about it. Basically, I got tagged in this video on TikTok, and it was this couple, and she was playing the song Dress for her boyfriend for like a blind reaction. And it's funny because the pre-chorus of the song is like, you're so masculine. And it's saying all these words that like, it's like lips like cherry cola, but then you're so masculine.
Oh, what a mess I'm in. You're so masculine, sweet like cherry cola.
And then back and forth between things that are kind of more feminine to masculine and all this stuff. And he was listening to it, and his reaction during the pre-chorus is like, what are you showing me? Why are you playing me this song? Like, what is this? I hate this, you know? And then the chorus drops and it says, and all of a sudden it's, I love the way you wear this dress. And he just like looks at her. Oh, I'll cry. He looks at her and just starts like beaming, like so happy. And it was like, I sobbed for like 45 minutes because watching somebody like visibly have a sense of relief to the fact that like their partner is just like accepting of them and showing them through my song. Oh God,
Yeah.
I'm tearing up. But it was like the craziest thing ever because like you could visibly see, I don't ever get to like visibly watch people listen to my song for the first time and what their reaction is. You know what I mean? You like,
Right.
especially with shows not happening, I don't get to have those interactions. So seeing a video where I could see somebody hear this song for the first time and like visibly see them feel good because of it and just happy and start smiling and laughing and like, oh my God, it like was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm just forever grateful for things like that and like those people who listen to that songs and the fact that people like it and feel like I did them justice, you know? Yeah, it was just so cool. I will never get over it. I watch it all the time, every time I'm sad.
I think people don't realize the responsibility that like we all have. Like
Yeah.
obviously artists can do it at scale, but like we all have the responsibility to give each other permission to be ourselves. Like
Yeah.
the more accepting and the more we express how accepting we are, the more we give people, like the more other people feel comfortable to be able to express themselves. And that has a domino effect that can
Definitely.
inspire other people and inspire other people and inspire other
Yeah.
people. Like the moment that we close ourselves off from that is the moment that we close that entire chain reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, you know, like the person in the TikTok video,
Right.
then, you know, and that reaction can inspire somebody else who watches it. And like there
Right.
could be a ripple effect of acceptance and empathy. Like, you know,
Definitely.
but you know, even on your day to day, like just telling somebody like that what they're wearing is cool.
Yeah.
Like the more we can just show acceptance and
Right.
show compassion, like it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that.
You know?
It's like the candle metaphor that it's like
Mhm.
no matter how
Yeah.
many candles you light from your candle, the
You never
flame
run out
will
of
never
fire.
get smaller. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and art and creativity and positivity are like that. Like, yeah,
Right.
the more you yeah, just give out good energy and also yeah, like make what is so impressive to me about Dress is that it manages to accomplish a sort of cultural and like borderline political goal while not hitting you over the head with it and just being
Yeah.
like an accessible piece of music
Mhm.
Thank you.
that is just like enjoyable and just like gets stuck in your head. Like that song is stuck in my head all the time, and I think that's just like that is the best possible vessel for positive social change. I think that
Thank you so much.
that exists.
That's
in our,
like
in
the
our
biggest
world.
compliment ever. I want people who don't agree with the song to want to listen to it and be. I want it to get stuck
the
in
moral.
their head.
That's the moral panic of having a song stuck in your head that like
Yeah.
like you philosophically might not agree with.
Yeah.
And
Can you imagine hearing that song and like being like, men can't wear dresses, but being like, shit, this song's good. I want to listen to it.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like, that's change. That's how we're gonna change the world. Are you guys on TikTok?
yeah.
Yeah.
more or
Do you know
less.
that
more or less.
Fortnite song? The
Yeah.
Number one
Oh,
video.
yeah.
Of course.
Fortnite about to get down.
Get
That
down.
song has been stuck in my head for like 3 weeks. I wake up and I'm like, #1 victory royale.
Yeah, actually, honestly, that's been happening to me too. Now that I think about it,
Apropos nothing. I used to go sailing with my dad, and when I would go, like when I try to sleep that the night after, like I would feel like my bed was like rocking. And I've been recently playing like a pirate video game that like where you are like on a pirate ship in the water. And last night I tried to go to sleep and my bed was rocking.
No
again.
way.
whoa,
Like I was like,
Trippy.
just tangentially related to having like some random piece of the internet just like fucking with your brain.
And how
So
it sticks
weird.
with you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So weird.
Well, it's like when you just any video game. It's like when you play it for long enough, you start just kind
Having
of like
dreams. I had
Oh,
chess
for sure.
dreams when I got really into chess.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had dreams that I was lived in Sims and I couldn't get out. Because for like,
Right,
the beginning of quarantine, I like
exactly.
downloaded Sims and basically created my entire life on Sims
Oh
because
my
I thought we were going to be out of here in like 3 weeks. So I was like, I'm just going to re-download Sims and do this for a while. And I had actual like night terrors that I got stuck in the game and like was living my Sims life with all the people I created that I like hated. It was awful. It was the worst thing that's ever happened. I'll never play that game again. I deleted it off my computer.
I had a dream that I rear-ended John Feldman, and he was like,
No.
"Yeah, because you hit my car. Let me produce your pop punk."
Oh
record."
my God.
That's really funny. I love
That's
that.
a good
honestly.
dream. Then you wake up and
Um,
you're like, fuck.
And then I had we were watching the John Wick movies, and I had a dream that I was being saved by John Wick,
That's
like by
great.
Keanu Reeves.
Oh
yeah.
God, any day of the week.
The last time we chatted, though, you said that you recently formed a street team. How's all that going?
Oh my God, I love them.
You're like
so
100
much.
strong, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's like a crazy number.
100 people, and it's really the coolest part is that it's literally ages like 15 to 30, and they're all in the one group chat. And then they've also gone off and made like group chats on every other social platform. So I literally I talk to them every single day, and they've like become like great friends of mine. We do like Zoom parties all the time. I got a foster puppy this week, and we like are planning a Zoom for them to like meet the foster dog and all that stuff. And it's just been super cool. It's like I basically just like automatically got like 100 new friends, and they've just been helping with like promo and come up with ideas for like social media and that kind of stuff, which is so helpful, especially being 24 and then having like 16-year-olds who are like, this is trending right now, you should do this. And I'm like, what does trending mean? You know, I'm like, what's an algorithm? And they're over
Right.
here being like, if you post this at this time, doing this, tag these 3 things. And I'm like, I don't know what I did before you, but yeah, they're incredible. And it's so cool because it's so positive. It's like 100 people that all follow each other now on every social media, comment on all of each other's posts, like are literally so supportive. I'm like, if I had this when I was that age, I would be a completely different person, honestly, like in so many ways. And it's just so cool that such young like teenagers are so positive and so smart and like just so aware of like the world and are talking about their state's budget for education. And I'm like, you're 16 years old. Like at 16 years old,
Because it gives me hope for the future,
Absolutely.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like we have a Discord, and we've been like recently
Yeah.
talking to fans and friends and stuff. It's just been so nice just like see smart, positive people.
Yeah.
Not like I feel so cynical about the world, and I wake up I wake up angry now.
Yeah.
Like that's just how I wake up. Like
It's a lot. Yeah.
and I feel like the fact that younger folks, and even like younger than my little brother, my brother's really cynical too, but like people younger are like, oh yeah, like in a couple of years we're gonna be able to vote and it's all gonna be gone. Like we're gonna be able to vote and we're gonna deal
Oh,
with it.
God, yeah.
We're just gonna fucking clean up this mess. That's fine. A couple of years we're gonna clean up the mess. Like that's the mentality of these kids, and it's
Right.
amazing.
And they are
You
just
know?
so they like it's just so cool. Honestly, I could talk about it forever because it's like it's so cool how they carry themselves, and they're just like they've had conversations and discussions about like different things in the group that are kind of like hard discussions to have right now, and they've been having them with each other, and every single message is like, thank you so much for sharing your opinion on this. I really appreciate you feeling safe enough for you to like speak to me about this. I know it can be really hard in our like current societal climate, so thank you for like
Right.
doing that. And also, this is my opinion, this is how I feel this way, this is my perception of like blah blah blah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like when I was your age, somebody would be like, I don't like your shirt, and I would like flip them off and be like, your mom, you know what I mean? Like that.
I mean, that's all
It's
we knew. That's all we
crazy.
knew. you
I know, and
Like,
it's so cool. Like it's just so cool to be able to witness that and like have them in my corner for some reason. I don't know why they're there, but I'm grateful for it.
if they're listening, is there anything you want to like shout out to them directly?
Oh, I just love you so much. I truly literally talk to you more than I talk to anyone else in my life. So my friends in my real life are probably like, where have you been in 2 weeks? And I'm like, sorry, I have 100 new best friends that I've been hanging out with. Literally every weekend and doing like Zoom sleepovers. So I'm like,
That's awesome.
living my literal best life right now. No, honestly, that's like the one thing I think about that I'm like the silver lining of all of this. And obviously this has been such a rough year for so many people and heartbreaking in so many ways. But I think that like the silver lining has been the fact that we have now realized that we can create relationships in like an actual, like true way when we are so far away from people and like even with strangers. And that's what's been really cool is even on TikTok or social media or like being able to like have Zoom sessions or like Zoom hangs and all these things that have like brought us together during such a difficult time. It's like the one thing that I am so grateful for that I don't think would have, I mean, people were just so closed off and people still are. And I think our society we're super private in different ways, but then super public on socials. And it's like this weird mix. And it's just really cool to be able to build actual relationships with people from all over the world and be able to like actually build friendships. And I don't know, it's really cool. I just feel really, really lucky and grateful for all of the relationships and like co-writers and collaborators and fans and friends and everything that's happened over the last year. And, you know, in such a rough one, but we're on the other end.
I love that. I love that so much. And here's my pitch.
Yeah.
Theme park
Absolutely.
and call it Sands Castle.
Nice.
Wow. And there
That's
should be a
great.
ride called the Sandstorm.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh,
That's
sorry.
so good.
Oh,
I will
man.
never ride it, but you all can. No, that's incredible. Sands
I
Castle.
love that.
Oh my
Well,
God.
speaking of incredible supporters,
Nice.
and
Nice.
yeah, we don't fuck around with segues. Speaking of incredible supporters and just people who have been engaging with the art that we've put out, we've had our Patreon subscriber Alan C, faithful as
Alan.
ever. He has some questions.
Oh yeah, fire away, Alan.
He throws a question for each person we talk to, but this one is actually one he wants me to ask a couple of folks.
Cool.
So listening land, you might hear this one pop up a couple times, but he wants to know, what do you think dreams are?
Oh God. What do you think dream? I thought this was gonna be like, what was your first car? And
No,
like,
this is a heavy hitting
Nissan Versa.
question.
What do you think? What do I think dreams are? Honestly, I have a lot of different. I feel like multiple things. I used to think that dreams were like honestly different lives that we've and like different experiences that we've already had like different
interesting.
beings. And some
Mhm.
ways trying to find like a tunnel or like some type of communication through those souls in some way.
That makes my John Wick dream very exciting.
That is very exciting.
Maybe you were John Wick and you were saving yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
You were reincarnated.
I mean, there we go.
There you
we
go.
You are John Wick. Yeah, so that's like one way I've always looked about it. I like I'm a huge like energy person in the sense of like I think that like souls are like energy in the universe and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just kind of weird. But I've always also felt like dreams were also connected to like souls of people who have like passed away and even like family members or like anything like that. Like in some sense is like, I don't know, like messages and like things like that. Or just like stories, but I don't know. I also sometimes am like, I'm so weird and I think I'm just like, my brain is so strange that I'm also like, maybe I just think too much about everything. But
I feel like, especially in the year 2021, there are so many like meta ways of thinking about things.
Yeah.
Like we are like running layers and layers and layers of thought and meta thought and sub thought and all that like shit.
right.
Of just like that. I there are times when I don't know how I feel about things
Mhm.
because I don't know what layer I'm interacting with of like my own consciousness and psyche.
Right.
Like I don't.
Yeah. And you like hold it in your body, but you don't really process it for a while,
Right.
Yeah.
So like there are just like layers of stuff. So I feel like dreams in a lot of ways are the ways of like your brain saying, okay, but like pay attention to this thing. Take a second and really like process it. And I did. And then I cried a lot and it felt great.
I love that.
You
I love
know,
when that happens. That's me every day.
It was it's so crazy how like tantalizing it is. Like when I finally get like a good cry, I'm like, I don't want it to stop. I'm like, let me just
Right.
do
You're
this.
like, oh my God,
Cry.
yeah. You want to like ride it out. Same.
Yeah. Because I know people who cry like really, really easily. I think I have a hard time doing it
Yeah.
because I don't know. It wasn't even like a masculinity thing. I just like think in our family, we just all tried to put on a brave face, because like we all were right. And if you cried, you were wrong, So
Yeah. I get that.
that makes my step parents sound like terrible people. No, that was that was something that like my brother and I imposed on everybody else, and then he just had to follow the rule.
Yep.
See,
I got off easy because I was always the creative kid because my siblings are so like smart and like just so like successful and wonderful in every way. But I was always like the creative one and like the overly emotional one. My mom, I remember, this is actually so crazy. I still think about this all the time. My mom, when I was like 8 years old, said to me, she was like, Charlotte, you are super sensitive and super emotional, but that's only because when you walk into a room, most people only feel what they feel. You walk into a room and you feel what everybody feels.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that at that age and like my whole life that I'm lucky enough to have even like a mom who was like, you are a hypersensitive and emotional person and that's okay. It's like, she's like, it's a superpower in your own way. And like, I feel so lucky that I was able to have somebody who was like, that's not weird and you're not crazy and you don't necessarily need therapy. I mean, everyone needs therapy, I think, but so I feel like I cry all the time. I probably think it's like too accepted in my life. I think I'll just be at dinner. I'll get the wrong thing and I'll cry.
I'm trying to like open up more.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. We're on
That's what
Talking
we're here
Lion for vulnerability.
I love
We're here
it.
for vulnerability.
I could talk about this kind of stuff like literally my whole life. So I love it.
I appreciate that a whole lot. I appreciate your openness about it too.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the question round?
Oh yeah, fire away.
Dun, dun, dun.
So much pressure.
Question. First question. What is your first? What?
First question. What is your first question?
What is
Do you have any questions for me? That's actually the question I was first. Like, do you have anything you want to ask
What is your
me
favorite
about?
thing about me?
Yeah. Okay. Let's try that again. First question is, what is your phone background?
My phone background, a canyon. It was a picture of me and my sister. Sorry, sister. Still love you.
But this canyon is way prettier than
yeah,
me.
I just really love the color orange a lot, and I love like the desert. It just is really calming to me, and so I like kept it as a I almost said cannon, and I was like, it's a cannon.
Listen, I've been
are
saying
like-
canon all week because I've been playing a pirate video game. So.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I'm like, yeah, what's the phone? Your phone background? It's a cannon. You're like, oh,
It's a cannon.
What? Yeah. So I love the desert. I love canyons. I went on a road trip during quarantine to like Utah, and it's just like my favorite place and my favorite thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a non-musical hobby?
Oh shit! I remember this question because I couldn't think of like anything. And I've had so long to prepare for it.
You've had so much.
I could have picked
taken up a new hobby.
I could have literally started a new hobby before this. I read. I mean, I'm trying to like. I'm really bad because I feel like I read like 3/4 into every book, and it's not even that they're
Right.
boring, but I always end up like just finding another book by that time that I like want to read.
Mhm.
So then I have so many books that I read like 75% of, and people are like, "Oh, you read this?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, you like finished it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I did. I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't." Right? But yeah, so I read a lot. I honestly do feel like I need to find more hobbies that are not like music related. I think it's really healthy for everyone to like have hobbies that are just like can kind of clear your mind from your job and like those kind of things. But I don't know. I really am not. I mean, I would say like guitar, and then I'm like, that's music related, so it doesn't really count. That's my goal after this interview.
Your
or
goal is to
podcast
like pick up a hobby right after this. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
knitting?
want you guys to do like, we'll do another one, and we'll do a
follow-up,
do a follow up.
What if we all got really good at ping pong?
You could also just delete this interview and we can just do it a
Yeah.
third time.
Honestly, I'm down.
Nice.
This is fun for me. This is the most fun I've had in a while.
Yeah, the third time we do it, it's a 10-minute interview, and we're just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so cool, and then
I know
dress,
this
and
about
then
you. I know this.
special, and then Nashville, and then cool. All right,
We
goodbye.
should switch
Goodbye.
roles and answer as each other since we probably know so
Oh,
many
Oh,
things
yeah,
about
at
each
this point, we
other
know
now.
that would actually be hilarious.
It's so funny. You
All right,
dye your
well,
hair.
back. We've now returned to the most important question.
The most important question.
Would you
Be a
pirate? Arr.
Yes. I would
Hell
be a
yeah.
pirate.
not shocking at all. Pirates are amazing.
I think pirates are really cool. And I remember that I'm just now remembering this, but like, no, I think that like I've always wanted to be part of like I was about to say like a community, but like a pirate community. I've always
No, there were pirate communities.
Yeah, I really just feel like their rules are so cool. And I feel like having random rules and like things that you have to do, like if you do that, like it's so interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like being like, if you see four
The pirate
clouds.
code.
Yeah, pirate code. If you see like 4 clouds on a Wednesday, then like
Oh yeah, but also
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Superstitions
sailing superstitions
is
are super
huge, yeah.
fascinating.
yeah, I'm all about it.
You seem pirate-esque. You seem like
pirate-esque,
you're progressive and
I also
and
feel like you'd
adventurous.
find a way to dye your hair
Oh yeah.
in
I'd, like,
those times.
find berries.
And
Just,
yeah.
like berries and or
Well,
turmeric.
people would think that you were like a mermaid. Like people would
Right.
probably think
Honestly,
that you were like
thank you so
like-
much. That
yeah.
is
People,
so
no, people would
nice.
probably think that you're like a mermaid turned pirate, and
That's
like
my
and made a
dream.
deal to like get your legs and whatever.
I see-
And
I would
yeah.
want to be like the captain of a ship so bad and just be like, oh God, that just sounds sick.
women were captains.
Yeah.
And Bonnie.
So cool.
You
Badass
get it.
Women. Just want to be a fucking badass
Just be a pirate.
That's all I want.
Just be a badass
So I'll
pirate.
move away.
Ahoy.
Let's go start our own pirate community.
Let's start our own pirate podcast and just call it Ahoy.
Oh,
Oh, that is actually the best name you could ever come up with for a
Yeah.
pirate podcast.
I'm obsessed with that. Yep, let's do it. I'm sold. I have a hobby officially.
I'm the and then you get to say I am the co-anchor of a pirate podcast.
Oh my god!
Which
is just, I think, just
you
a
guys
great
are really
Wow.
on
thing
one
to
today.
say.
I'm really impressed.
You can call it the sand sail or something like that.
Whoa.
You know, just
I'm
like
down. Let's go.
I'm Charlotte, captain of the sand sail. That's great. I'm obsessed with
Charlotte Sands actually does sound like a pirate name.
It does.
That's really cool.
Dude,
Wow.
guys, thank you so much. Keep gassing me up. Gas me
Yeah, we're
up.
just gonna
I love it.
we're just gassing you up, you know.
I'm obsessed.
It's all your cannons, you know. That's the thing.
It all started when I was cannons.
that. Oh my god. Next question. Unless you have more to say about pirates, we could go. We really
We
could
could really
start
go
a-
on.
We
for a
really
while.
could start a pirate
Yeah,
podcast if we
could
wanted
start
to.
a pirate podcast.
But what was your first tattoo, if you have any tattoos?
My first tattoos were my brother. I have my brother and my sister's. Yeah, I have like 9 or 10 tattoos now, but I have my brother and my sister's birth dates. In Roman numerals on my arms. Yeah, because it was the only thing that I could think of. I really wanted a tattoo for so long, and I was like, I have to find something that's like permanent and won't change, like no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the only thing like my mom would be like cool with. So I ended up being like, okay, well, birthdays, my siblings, that's not going to change. And then their date of birth is not going to change. So I was like, I went for it. And then I got obsessed. And I have like a ton of like random ones. I don't have like a full sleeve or anything like that. But I like love like random tattoos everywhere. Like I think they just like look so cool. And it kind of just, for me, just feels like, it's like a scrapbook, you know? It's like
Mhm.
your favorite memories or highlights or random things from like different trips in like your entire life. And I feel like I want to be like 99 years old and be able to be like, this one time in Montana and like, this is when I got arrested in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Aye, she has the compass rose on her back.
Literally. No, that's like the dream. And so we'll see.
That's so funny. What was your first concert?
And I honestly don't know if it was my first one, but I think it was the first time that I was like really blown away by like live music. Was Bonnie Raitt at the Orpheum in Boston. I went with my
Nice.
mom, and so just like being able to go into the city with my mom when I was like 15 was just like
Mhm.
super cool. And then yeah, she brought like James Taylor was on stage, and it was just
Nice.
Wow.
she
That's
just
very
has
fun.
like that voice. Bonnie Raitt's voice is like probably one of my favorite voice ever, and it's just like whiskey. Like it's like so
Mm.
thick and like crazy.
I love
and
describing somebody's voice as whiskey. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
dude,
great.
it's like the only thing that I think does it justice is it's like I don't know. That's like it's so crazy. Is like she's just like a magical person, and like it was just so cool, and like it was just a really 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 incredible. It was in a theater basically, so. It's just like such an insane experience. And that was like the time that I remember just being like absolutely like taken aback by a performance and by like music as a whole. And like it like I felt like different after. Like it was like really affected me. And so yeah, she's so cool. So shout out my mom, you know.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Could you recommend a movie, a book, and a TV show?
Okay, yeah. Let's go. I think the last movie that I watched, what is it called? It's with Jim Carrey and his like whole
The Truman Show.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
we talked about
talked
it
about
last
that.
time.
And I can't believe it's
You
been
haven't
that
seen a
long.
movie since last time we
Honestly,
talked?
No.
Yeah, The Truman Show. Yeah, it's a good one.
And like, it's so funny because like people have just been, I feel like I always make jokes about how I'm living in a simulation. And I always talk to people about that. And they're like, yeah, like The Truman Show. And for years, people have been saying that. And I've always been like, haha, yeah, like that. And like, I never
You got to keep a
watched
list.
it.
I'm telling you, you got to keep a list.
Dude, I really
Of
do
movies
need
you've
to.
told people you've
I
seen.
do need to. And so, yeah. And then I finally watched it. I like had to force myself to do it because I feel like after a certain point where musics have or movies just have this like such a big rep that like almost I'm scared to watch them because like if I don't like it, then I'm like someone who doesn't like people's favorite movie ever of all time. And I'm like, I just
Sure.
don't even want to touch on it. I'm like, I feel like maybe I'm past it.
I feel like it's a lot like the Grammys. Like, I don't love every song that's like nominated or whatever,
Right.
but and that doesn't mean that like I'm against like general culture. But the whole thing of art or anything is that that things are meant for certain people.
Right.
Like the more pressure we take out of watching movies, the more we can open ourselves up to just like watching whatever. Like
Yeah.
there are movies that I thought were terrible that I wound up loving, and there were movies that like I had heard were
Right.
incredible, and I wound up like having some major qualms with it.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I think that's what the cool thing is about like any art in general is that it's like supposed to be a discussion and it's supposed to be hated and loved. And like that's the best part about it is that people can all feel differently about it and have different relationships and perceptions of it. That's the beauty of all things that are created.
I wholeheartedly agree. Do you have a book and TV
Oh
recommendation?
yeah. Book I am still reading Atomic Habits.
Nice.
Which
Oh,
is
yeah,
like,
you were talking about
yeah,
that
I
last
told you
time.
have to get that. It's so good. It's like just basically about creating better habits and like how to get rid of bad habits that you've had and create better habits. And it sounds really boring and like static, but it genuinely is like super interesting and just about how the brain works and what happens when you get like triggered by certain things and why you react to them and like all of it. And it's great. So I
Do you think
recommend
it'll
that.
help you break the habit of only reading 3/4 of a book?
I genuinely hope so. I really do. That's my whole goal. What if I only read 3/4 of the book?
3/4 of it,
That's
yeah.
about not only reading 3/4 of the book. That would be something I would do, unfortunately. But it's so good and I love it. For TV shows, I'm like so typical on my TV shows. Like I'm the kind of person who's like, what's your favorite TV show? The Office. Like I'm like that
Right.
person. I feel like I don't have like a weird taste in that kind of stuff. I really honestly love TV that's like so simple and like funny because I feel like especially this year I've like really clung like to things that are just like feel good and you don't have to think
I'm a
about
huge
them.
Frasier fan, so you don't have to
Yeah.
convince me of that. Like for me, that was just comfort food. Like I would just watch it
Right.
to like
Just takes
just
your
shut off
mind
my
off
brain
of
for a
things.
second,
Yeah,
you know?
and
Yeah.
especially right now, I'm like sometimes it's just too much to watch movies that are like or TV shows that are like heartbreaking or dramatic or like this or that. I'm like I already have enough tension in every aspect
Yeah.
of my life. Like
I've been
sometimes
I've been
want
watching
relief.
Victorious religiously
Oh my
for the
God,
last
yes.
week.
I
It is
love
so
that.
good.
I
It's a
want to
great
rewatch
show.
Hannah Montana really bad.
Yeah, that's a
it's
good
the
one.
it's the anniversary.
Yeah, it's the anniversary, 15 years. How crazy.
Well, the thing is, like what I love about sitcoms is that they are designed to resolve.
Yeah.
Like I feel like so many of these shows now are trying to be like, trying to be gritty and trying to be real and trying to be whatever, which
Right.
is all well and good. Like I love, BoJack Horseman as much as the next person. But what I love about like especially classic sitcoms, but just like sitcoms that do follow sitcom structure is they present a problem, they solve the problem. You get the feeling of catharsis
Yeah.
every fucking episode.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
I wish life worked like that.
Yeah,
You know?
same. Right there with you. But yeah, no, it's like New Girl in The Office and like things that are just like meant to cheer you up and no matter what, there's going to be a resolution at the end of the episode.
No, that's
No
great. I
matter
think
what.
that's what we
that.
all need right now, honestly.
Yeah.
Do you have a scar with a story?
Yeah, I have a few weird scars. I mean, I have one on my finger from when I cut off my finger with a bandsaw because my dad was a
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right.
contractor.
That was
about
the
this.
Yeah.
that was the story. That was the story you told last
which is
time.
hilarious. I do have another one on my knee that this was probably 6 months ago. I was on a scooter because we can like have scooters and that, like the bird scooters and
Like the
stuff.
birds,
Yeah, yeah.
And I was on a scooter and my friend was in front of me and she like hit. It started raining, but we were only like a block away from her house. So we were just like, keep going. And it was like downpouring. And we saw her house and we're almost there. And she went over like some sort of bump and like braked. And I was behind her. And we fell off. She ended up breaking her collarbone
Holy
on a
shit.
bird
Damn.
scooter. She's fine. This is months ago. She's perfectly healed and in great condition. We're probably never gonna ride a scooter again. But yeah, we ended up spending like the entire day in like the hospital, and
Oh, damn.
I have like still have scars on my knees from like falling. Luckily, that was all that happened to me, though. I cannot complain. And then they wouldn't, because of COVID, they wouldn't allow more than one person in the room, so I had to go. But they like couldn't have food and all those kind of things, so I literally had to like sneak in like Twizzlers and like random things. And it was just like such a day and like so chaotic. And I will never get on the scooter ever again because every time I look at one, I get like an actual energy over me that's like, don't you dare do this again to yourself. Yeah, so be careful on
I
those
appreciate
scooters. They're
that.
dangerous. But yeah, hilarious. Just
Can you
ridiculous
retell the
scars.
buzzsaw story?
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. So I was like 9 years old and my dad used to always like let me make, like, he always used to make like tables and all this stuff for work, and he like built houses. So I was always helping him build kind of stuff like that. And he would let me like use his shop and kind of, I remember he was like, oh, you can use the shop. I was going to make like something for my sister for her birthday. And so I was going to make like a little house or something out of wood. And I was going to use a bandsaw. And I just remember I used it and I like turned it and I just like basically cut through my entire finger, my pointer finger. And I know it's like still like bent, which is hilarious. I feel like every time I give directions, people are like, I don't know which way you're talking about.
You were saying that like your mom could immediately tell
Oh
you
my
were
God,
in
yeah.
trouble.
So I basically like held my finger together, walked into the house, and I just remember being like, I walked into the mudroom and I know my mom was in the living room, my sister was with her, and I didn't want my mom to freak out because I was so scared that I was going to get in trouble. So I was like, I remember walking into the house and saying, Emma, that's my sister's name, and I said it like this. I was like, Emma, could you please come over? Could you come see me for a second? I'd like to, like, I was like, I'd like to talk to you. Like, so calm, like, could I see you in the mudroom for a second? And my mom was like, what is going on? Like, she automatically said that, like, the second she heard that tone, she was like, you're injured or you're dying or something's wrong. And she like rushed up and like I ended up having to go to the hospital and get a bunch of stitches, and it was super gross. But yeah, she always cracks up about that because I was like, Emma, would you mind to come seeing me in the mud? Like, who, what? Like, she was like, that is not your voice. Like, you're being so weird. Yeah, so.
You say you still don't have feeling in it though,
Yeah,
right?
there's like a lot of parts of it that I don't have feeling in. But sometimes it's like the worst thing ever if I hit it on anything, or like if I like hit my
falls
hand,
off.
it will fall off. Yeah. It will like I'll get feeling back for like 10 seconds, and it's super weird because it will like feel like numb and then it will go away. Like, it's super strange. And I sometimes will and will not have feeling in it. But I promise it's not like, it sounds really gross the way I'm talking about it. I promise it's not super
No, it's
gross.
interesting. It's interesting.
But,
Definitely interesting. It's definitely a story.
Yeah, it's a story, you know?
The scar of the story.
Scar of the
Start of
story. All right. What are 3 thoughts you have at this very moment?
This very moment.
3 thoughts I have. I have to take my foster dog on a walk, and I'm kind of dreading it because he doesn't know how to walk on a leash because he's never walked on a leash before.
Fair play.
And it's been very interesting and taxing this last week, but I love him. If anyone wants to adopt a dog, let me know. I'm genuinely in a great mood because it's sunny outside right now, and that makes me really happy because this weather has been so ridiculous. And I feel like in this month in Nashville, getting nice weather and like sunny weather is just an absolute blessing. So I'm feeling grateful for that. And also I was thinking about what I want to make for dinner, which is, I know I said last time that I was hungry because I remember saying I was hungry.
That's a consistent answer. So that's totally fair. Final question.
What are you looking forward to?
Honestly, I feel like the answer for probably all artists and musicians right now is like live shows. I'm genuinely, I just had my first rehearsals in 412 days last week. And so I am just overwhelmingly like ecstatic with the idea that people are getting vaccinated and people are going to be healthy and able to go to live shows and concerts and festivals and all that stuff. And I couldn't be more thrilled about it. It's been literally, I know the exact number of days it's been since I played a show, and I think about it every single day, and it's my favorite thing in the entire world. And yeah, I can't wait to be together and for all of us to be at a show together. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, we can't wait to see you live. Like I said, it's not going to be the end of this until we see you live, and we can all hang out and write and be human beings again. So wait. Just thank you for doing this again. And
of course.
And we can't wait to actually visit Nashville sometime in the future and actually hang out. So thank you for being here.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Like, these conversations are my favorite, so it's a privilege. We'll do it number 3 soon. We'll just keep doing it.
We can just hang out.
Yeah.
We don't have to record it next time. We can just have a FaceTime.
We can actually just have a conversation without recording it. A dream. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Have the best time, the best day.
Love the way you wear that dress, making everyone upset. Burning that cigarette, boy. Swear to God, I confess, boy. Craving your candy lips, all black fingertips. Look so good, I'm annoyed. Make me wanna get undressed, boy. Love the way you wear that. Love the way you wear that. Love the way you wear that. Love the way you wear that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talking Lion.
We'd like to thank Isotope and our Patreon subscriber Alan C. for their support.
If you'd like to show your support, ask our guests your questions, talk to us on Discord, and get a shout out at the end of each episode, subscribe to our Patreon over at patreon.com/talkinglion.
Thank you for listening, and see you next time.